Hey, what's up, Reefers? I'm Reefer Matt. Today I want to talk about UV sterilizers. I want to talk about what they are, what they can do, and maybe how they can help you out with your tank. Let's take a look. Okay, so please bear with me. I got a new phone and I'm trying to find a good video app. And right now I can't use my external microphone, so hopefully the phone microphone works good. In case you're wondering, I got the new iPhone, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, so I'm trying to figure it out on here as far as my programs and stuff, because I used to be an Android user. But anywho, this is the 75-gallon SBS tank. A lot of you have seen this tank already. What you'll notice, or maybe not notice on my rocks, is they're pretty darn clean. Part of the reason for that is that I run a UV sterilizer in this tank 24/7. The one I use on this tank is down here. Let me turn my light on real quick. So this one is the Coral Life Turbo Twist. I think this is the 12, this might be the 6X or the 12X, I can't remember. There's three different sizes. This is like the medium. But this one works pretty good for this tank. So the way I have it plumbed in on this tank, this comes from just a cheap return pump, and I got a little valve here to cut back on the pump itself. It doesn't hurt the pump any as long as you don't cut off the flow all the way. But what that does is you want a certain flow going through here depending on what you're trying to get rid of in your tank. And they give you different flow suggestions for these things. I forgot what this particular one is, but I'll put it right here after I look it up. But that date right there was the last date that I changed the bulb in this. But the way I do it is, instead of having it short cycling up here, I have a separate return pump, and it's on the other side of the divider than this return pump is, the main return pump. And what that does, it just keeps it in the side with the water. See, there's the pump in there. So it's a separate return pump basically. And the reason why I don't have it turned in to my regular pump is because I don't want to have to turn down my flow that much. I want to keep the amount of flow that I have in this tank. So this just allows me to tune this just for this, so I don't have to turn down my main return pump. And then where this comes out of, turn this down here. Up here, there's a gooseneck. You can see it back there, little duck bill. So that's the return for the UV. But that works well for this tank. And I change my bulbs every 6 months, not every year. The reason is because I do notice that I'll get brown algae in that growing on my rocks. And if anybody's gone tanning before in a tanning bed, you'll notice that new bulbs will burn you real quick, where old bulbs don't. So it's sort of the same thing. They're UV bulbs. So that's why I replace them every 6 months. And the tank kind of tells me that. It'll start to get a little brown algae on the rocks, and I'll change them and then it goes away. So that tells me that 6 months is when I got to replace that bulb. So tell me what you think in the comments about this new phone. Hopefully it's up to the task with what I need to do with it. So moving on to the frag tank. I also put a UV sterilizer on this tank because I started noticing, see that in the back, little algae growing on the dead parts of the coral back there. And it was getting that little bubbly snot stuff, and I'm like, oh boy. And of course it was dino, but the cool part of it is that it's an easy dino. Then turning the lights off, doing blackouts, and then putting a UV sterilizer on, it'll take care of it. So I put this UV sterilizer, which is the one you saw at the beginning of the video, the box for. This one's kind of neat. This one's a portable one, and see how it just hangs on there? And you're like, well, where does it come out? Check this out. It comes out right at the end there. See that? So it allows you to hang it over the edge of a tank. So you can see the bulb is on there. And the same thing, I'm going to change this every 6 months. But I just got it. So what I did for this one, I got to get actual hose clamps. But for now, I got two little zip ties holding it on there. And the same thing as the other tank, the pumps in the sump. I got it on the deep side of the sump right there. And that's a CJ 1.5 pump. So that provides enough flow to go through this. So let's talk about that flow for a minute. That's better. So depending on what you want to get rid of in the tank is the flow you want to set to this. So some things, if you set the flow too low, some things will grow too fast. And if you set the flow too fast, then you're not going to have enough contact time. So you need to research what you're trying to cure. Are you trying to cure algae? Are you trying to cure dino? And research which flow you need. And the way you measure that, and the way I measure both of these at the same way, is I took this and I put it in a bucket and I held it up. I'll show you here. I held it up inside of a bucket, and I have a little foot switch down here on my extension cord. And when this bucket filled up to about where the 5 gallons is, I stopped it. But at the same time, I was also timing it. And I just did some math, and I figured out what my flow rate is. And you want that gallons per hour, liters per hour, however you measure. And you want to set the flow rate to whatever you're trying to cure. And that's a good, easy way to measure things. I just hold the bucket up, I turn it on, and I adjust the flow up or down from there. So I'll discuss why I decided to put the pump for the UV sterilizer in the sump rather than just having it next to the UV sterilizer itself. The reason for that is I didn't want to short cycle the water as best as I can. I do realize that my main return is next to it here. And it's hard to avoid short cycling the water, meaning that the water comes out and it goes right back in, it creates like a shorter loop rather than let it go through the whole tank and then, going all the way through and then back to the UV sterilizer. Just allows for more of a turnover of the water. So that's why I decided to put the pump in the sump. I know that's not an option for everybody because you may not even have a sump. So in that case, you can mount your return pump right next to it on the inside and have a shorter tube going to it and have it going in that way. But this is just the way I choose for my setups because I do have a sump, and I think it allows for the most water to go through the UV sterilizer for a better turnover. And also, before I forget, if you choose to set up your UV sterilizer like I have it here, do know that you're going to have to cut back on your main return pump because now you're going to have 2 return pumps pumping into your tank. So you're going to want to cut back on your main return pump a little bit so that way you don't flood your tank or anything like that. And your sump level may have to be adjusted as well. So I'm going to give this UV sterilizer another few days. I may even do a blackout, but didn't have a huge amount in here. Before things get out of hand, I like to take care of it so it doesn't become a huge problem. As you can see, these frags are looking great. That's why it helps to pay attention to your tanks so you can see things before they become a big problem. And the battle corals I just got, and those are right here, and they're doing pretty good. I did lose one to RTN, which is rapid tissue necrosis. That's the chance you take with acros. That's why I like to get more than one when I order them in the mail. But the rest are doing pretty good. I got one back there, and the other 5 are up here. Well, hopefully I helped you out a little bit with your decision to get a UV sterilizer if you're on the fence about it. In some situations, they'll help you remedy your issue. Other times, they may not fix it. So knowing what you have as far as your issue in your tank will help you in the long run if UV sterilizer will help you or not. So with that, I'm Reefer Matt. Thank you for watching and happy reefing.